Stay tuned for tonight's adventure with the Fat Man.
Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are, because I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Baltimore Fats, and we're going deep indigo. Yeah. Okay. All right, so continuing with King of the Hill and my trespassing all over Cathedral Hill here. Let's get up a little bit on it. And today we're going to look at this building here, which is next to the Unitarian Church. Right? But one thing, the more I look at this stuff, of course, the more I notice and that this block here, this city block here, it really is laid out like the city of Baltimore is. Let's check it out. See? All right. If you were to follow these down to a point, let's come in on that block again. There it is. All right. Comes down to a point here. And I also think it's interesting that that's the shape of Nevada as well. Okay, so anyway, we're looking at this building, as I said, right? My big trespass around Cathedral Hill and the things that I could find. So it's on the maps. All right, this is the 1822. We have it. And again, I mentioned that I like the symmetry of these buildings here. All right, here we are, 1851. All right, we still have this L-shaped building here, but these have changed. All right, and we now have the Presbyterian Church over here as well. And just to show that this building as it is now is a U-shaped building, they call these. All right, there's the Presbyterian Church, which we'll have a look at in another video. But okay, so what is this building? So here we go with a little footage that I took and some pictures, and then we're going to find out what this building is here on Cathedral Hill, so conveniently located right near the Basilica and all these churches and, the people that were prepping the world for the future that is today. And that's essentially what's happening. Everything that they were doing here 100, 150 years ago set the stage for what's happening today. So, all right, here we go. What is this building? Okay, here we go. Okay, guys, this is the Hotel Indigo on Franklin Street. And in the video, I'm sure I'm going to be talking a lot about Franklin Street. But I just wanted to show you this. All right, we're about to go down a hill. Fast forward my slow walking.
This is nothing that unusual or anything like that. Whoa, I just hit my head.
I'll leave that in. I'll share that with you guys. That stuff happens to me all the time.
Anyway, so we have a doorway down here, which really isn't all that unusual in Baltimore, to go down a few steps. But then when you look inside, it goes down a whole other flight of steps down there, right? And perhaps even further, because when we look this way, we see these grates. And I've already taken a bunch of stills of these. And just to show you, how far down this goes, I want to say to the bottom there, that's at least 20 feet.
Okay, and so, unfortunately, I do have some of the worst depth perception you could imagine. And in light of what happened to me at Hopkins with seeing that work crew and being able to judge the distance from them to the bottom of the building, which, was about 30 feet, I'll say this was more like 12 to 15 feet and not so much 20 or deeper than that.
But this is really, really deep here, guys. And they say this was built in 1854. So I'd like to know what kind of earth removal, what kind of earth moving machines they may have had to create a foundation, a footprint this deep and this big on the side of this hill at that time. I want to show you, this is the Presbyterian Church I'm going to be talking about, since I got...
All right, I'm going to end it here. I'm going to go back and take, since I turned my camera on the side to get a nice wide shot of this, and it inverted it. And so I'll go back and get more of the Presbyterian Church, because we're going to do an episode about that as well. Okay, so back to the Hotel Indigo and the pictures that I have. All right, this is the side now, right? That's where that doorway goes down, right? And they have these symbols on the windows above, and I think I get a better shot of these. These symbols on the windows, there's a row of symbols here along these windows and rows of symbols along these at the top, right? All right, and they have, you know, a Star of David and a cross on them. All right, and then the windows above have this, all right? And I also found this symbol. I had no idea at the time what this is. We'll see what that is coming up. All right, there's the cross. There is, and there's this pattern here, which I've never seen this before, you know, so it reminds me of crescent moons, but not really. And there's 3 of them. I went looking. I tried to do a couple different Google searches for crescent, you know, triple crescent moons and things like that. And it kept coming up with like fertility and pagan things, but the 3 crescent moons weren't positioned anything like this at all. And it doesn't match actually with the rest of the building, what we find out going forward. So if anybody recognizes this or has any information on that symbol, I'd love to hear about it. All right, and here we go with the sign. All right, Hotel Indigo, but you know, look at this symbol here. You know, this is a nautilus. That's, you know, that's a Fibonacci. And, you know, I'm sure there's no coincidence that they would have a Fibonacci on their sign, on their overhang here. All right. And of course, you know, the meanings of these things are never accidental or coincidental, right? So there's got to be some significance to why this is the Hotel Indigo now. And so I wanted to look up briefly the history of indigo. All right, and you know, it's a blue dye. It's like a deep blue, not quite purple, right? And it's among the oldest dyes to be used in textile dyeing and printing, right? The oldest known fabric dyed indigo dates back 6,000 years. You know, many Asian countries have used dye, right? Have used indigo dye for centuries, right? And for the longest time, because it was rare, you know, it was used for royalty, and indigo was a royal color. And it wasn't until like the 17th century that they were able to sort of mass produce indigo on a scale that made it accessible to the common man. And then it was like used in blue jeans. And that's what this article is about, the history of blue jeans here. And, you know, so tied to the textile industry and the dyeing and of course the color blue, Scotland, Israel, Greece, you know, we looked at that in one of the Gnosticism episodes, right? All right, and so here's the hotel website, and it just tells you its location and, you know, what you can find in the hotel and, you know, in and around the hotel. All right, but it says that it's an IHG hotel, so I looked up IHG hotels. Oops. And it's this hotel conglomerate that owns, you know, many different hotel chains, more upscale than others, and I love this. I may not be a real truther, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. All right, and so it took some digging, actually, to find out more about what this building was before the hotel, right? Google just didn't cough it up. You know, even with the address, which I believe was 24 West Franklin Street, you know, it took some searching to find this article, which was the historic YMCA in Mount Vernon to become Hotel Indigo. And now this is from 2014, right, June 4th. And now I want to remember that date as we go forward. You know, so scrolling through the first sentences, it says, a historic YMCA in Mount Vernon, once home to confessed Soviet spy Whittaker Chambers. And right there, I was like, wait, what? This is your leadoff line? Are you kidding me? Right, so sure enough, here's Whittaker Chambers. There he is. He was a communist spy. And he was a part of FDR's inner circle in the 30s, in the mid to late 30s. Right? Right? And he was a member of the Communist Party going back to 1925 and a Soviet spy from 32 to 38. And he turncoats. And he gives testimony against the Communist Party and his doings. If he wasn't a member of FDR's cabinet, he was closely associated with some of these people who were in this WARE group. All right, they were a covert organization of the Communist Party within the United States government. And so because of his testimony, he goes on to become something of a national hero, and Ronald Reagan gives him the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously in 1984. What? Are you kidding me? And so that's kind of amazing. That's the leadoff sentence to this article about the Hotel Indigo. All right, so this is really kind of an amazing story, and I highly recommend reading his story here. But apparently he lived at the Y. All right, but it's a big project here. It's going to cost about $21 million. They need, 2/3 of that, for renovations. And they talk about this group that's trying to sell more properties in the area. But this is where the story starts getting nuts. As if it hasn't already. All right, so the Hotel Indigo project will receive about $2 million in federal historic tax credits. It is also supported by $6 million in second-tier financing through a federal investor visa program, which allows foreigners to secure permanent residency in exchange for an investment of at least $500,000. Now let's read that again. This says that the Hotel Indigo is being funded. $6 million of it is being raised through a visa investor program that allows foreigners to secure permanent residency and for an investment of $500,000. So what that says to me, and we're going to look a little bit closer at this, but what this is saying to me, that you can buy your visa, right? If you're saying that you're investing $500,000 into the American economy, you can just buy your citizenship, right? And this campaign, this international marketing coordinator for Oriental Dolphins. Right, they're an Annapolis-based firm that arranged this loan, right? This guy, Laskin, whoever he is, he says that it's the first time this EB5 program, which started in 1992, that would be Clinton or the end of Bush, right, to put a little presidential context here on that. Right, has been used to finance, that's the first time this type of loan program has been used to finance a Baltimore development, right? But nationwide, its popularity has grown. And so a survey found that the number of visas issued through the program grew from 800 in 2007 to 6,600 in 2012. Right, and they can issue up to 10,000 a year. But in a 5-year span, that's over 8 times the number in 5 years. All right, so it says that the program is currently dominated by investors from China. And now this is mid-2014, about 6 years ago, maybe no coincidence there, investors from China gaining their permanent residency by investing in American businesses. Right? So, you think about what's going on today with, drawing the connections to what's coming out of Hopkins and the Chinese connections with the psychological warfare, COVID, and all of this other stuff. You go back a few years, you see all these investors gaining perhaps their citizenship right here in Baltimore. So close, so close to Hopkins. All right. So let's take a look at what this Oriental Dolphins and these EB5 loans are. All right, and I think it's interesting that the Oriental Dolphins doesn't have its own web page that I could see, right? It has a Facebook page. All right, but every other time it comes up in with these EB5 projects. All right, EB5 info. All right, here we go. Look, definitely a bunch of Oriental names here. Right? What is this EB5? So I guess there's been some inflation from 2014, but it's now $900,000 for this visa investment. All right, again, I'm not going to get too deep into all of this. All right, but it says, okay, so created by Congress in 1990, not 92. Right, the ability to obtain a U.S. visa based solely upon a minimum investment in a for-profit enterprise that creates or retains a specified number of jobs. For profit. Now notice it doesn't say creates and retains. Right? So you can come in, you can blow into town with your 900 grand, right? Buy your permanent residency by saying, yeah, you're hiring a bunch of your cousins for a job. Oh, my American dream didn't work out. But thanks for your citizenship, right? And who knows where that money came from? that 900 grand, and who just bought their citizenship. I think this is kind of amazing. And this is and these sponsor this hotel Indigo, which is this building, here. All right, so close to these organizations here, and they say that this building was once a YMCA. So what can we find out about that? And so just briefly now, the YMCA was founded on June 6th, right? And that's, notice this Sun article about the purchase of the Indigo Hotel, June 6th. That was June 4, right? But it was founded on June 6, 1844 by Sir George Williams. So Sir, he's a knight, right? With the aims to put Christian principles into practice by developing a healthy body, mind, and spirit. And so 1844. All right, but we're going to come back and talk all about all this. I want to get right to our building. All right, and we'll talk about quickly here in the 1st century. It says the first YMCA in North America opened in Montreal, Quebec, right on the 9th of December, 1851. The first one in the U.S. opens the 29th of December, 1851 in Boston. So just 20 days later, almost, it seems like a rollout. All right, we're gonna try to make this is a mind bender. So we're gonna try this again. All right, Baltimore, Maryland had its first YMCA in 1852. Right, a few blocks west of Charles Street, with later an extensive Victorian-style triangular structure of brick with limestone trim, with 2 towers at the northwest and southwest ends, and 2 smaller cupolas, I'm gonna pronounce that as, in the center. Built by 1872-73 on the southwest corner of West Saratoga and North Charles Streets. Of course, it's unbelievable that they keep going with this sentence, right? Because they give us so much to digest here, right? But one thing it says is that the first YMCA is not this extensive Victorian-style triangular structure. Right? Again, just kind of odd phrasing too. Right, on the northwest corner of West Saratoga and North Charles Street. And so now I'm going to look at that on the 1822 map. And that would be this corner here. The very point that starts from the ray at St. Paul's. Hey, that goes out. That is this corner building here. Now let's bring it back from there. Really? All right, so Google Earth has been malfunctioning on me, but I do love this perspective. Look how flat that is. That's unbelievable. I'm trying to get it to give me an aerial view, and it just won't do it. But look, that's unbelievable. There it is. Right? And so they say that 1872 to 1873, right? And they say that the former site, see now maybe I'm starting to crack the code here. Right? So the first YMCA, 1852, is the site of the first Roman Catholic Church, which was St. Peter's, 1770. And then the Pro Cathedral, which I love because it makes it seem like maybe there was an amateur cathedral. Right? 1791 to 1826. Raised 1841. First YMCA on that spot, 1852. Now, I'm wondering, well, we're going to play this out a little bit further down the line. All right, and so this, all right, so now let's see if we can find this on the 1822 map, St. Peter's. All right, so I mentioned how on this map they list the monuments and churches and buildings and how much they cost and everything on this 1822 map. I just went over all of these, and St. Peter's is not listed here. All right, and so it's driving me nuts trying to find, where this 300, where this St. Peter's would have been in here. All right, this would be the block right at the same spot that this building is. Well, let's see if this will do the right thing for me. And one thing I want to keep in mind too is, I wonder how much more of this block, this Baltimore-shaped block, that this corner building actually took up. Could it have been a much bigger portion at one time? But interesting that the YMCA, the first YMCA building in Baltimore, should be here, right on this cathedral hill, you know, and that its future headquarters would be located even closer to the basilica here. But maybe not so much because of course, what does the YMCA stand for? It's the Young Men's Christian Association, right? Before I move on to the YMCA and their connection to everything that's happening here, you know, I'm just going to close it out here in Baltimore real quick and then wrap it up, and we'll do a part 2. All right, so, you know, all of this is happening. It's bouncing around these buildings right around the church. And then by 1907, the building that they have today, which is the Hotel Indigo building, and we're going to pick up with the rest of this story in part 2.